All right, our next thing is we're going to move to old business, action items. The board policies for outside groups, I don't remember seeing those.
I'm going to recommend that on all of these policy items that the board withhold action until the policy committee and the new superintendent can meet.
Can I generally agree with that. I have a bit of a problem with the new 415, because the law said it was supposed to be adopted by June 1st. I would suggest that we adopt that policy the way it is here and include it for reconsideration when we look at the other policies.
Okay. All right. You want to make that in the form of a motion?
Yeah.
And write it down, just give it to Mary.
And so this would be the policy 4:15 on identity protection.
Do you have a proposed motion?
Here, hereby approves, and then you fill in the numbers.
Okay. Should I just try to read it? And then
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Then you write it.
Resolved that the Board of Education, Township High School District 208, Cook County, Illinois, hereby approves policy number 415 and the exhibits to the policy as presented in the June 14, 2011 board agenda packet.
Second.
And if you could, Tim, just include after 4:15, put down in parentheses identity protection, so
Okay.
it's clear as to the substance of.
Is that okay with your
policy.
amendment? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Michael, Mr. Welch, do you have no problem?
Second with the amendment.
Okay. All right, any comments? Mary Ann?
Mr. Esco? Aye. Dr. King?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Mr. Welch?
Yes.
Mr. Welch?
Yes.
Mr. Cindy?
Yes.
Mr. Grayson?
Yes.
Okay, next is the finance budget items. This is an extension of what we talked about on June 7th. With the reductions in coaching positions and reduction in extracurricular activity club stipends, other program expenditure reductions, registration activity fee increase, AP class fees, and pay to participate athletic fees. What is your, what do you want to do on this one? I know you've asked for some information. Art has provided you some with on the athletic budget side, on what we have a breakdown by sport for repairs, paid services, supplies, dues and fees, transportation, stipends, and the cost per athlete, and the athlete to coach ratio. Additionally, at the end of our June 7th meeting was the identification of cuts that were made in the athletic director's office and by sports of any coaches that were eliminated. So what do you want to do with this? My opinion, and you can take it for what it's worth, this is another, I think we need to continue this more on the committee of the whole, but I think we got some information here. I don't think, Dave, do we need to, is there anything pressing on this to approve?
No, I would recommend that you review this further and either have a committee of the whole meeting. I do have some updated items that the administration and Mr. Ostro put together, further informing you with some of the detail that you've requested.
Okay.
And then Art had at your table tonight another handout.
Everybody got this, right?
With, once again, more detail.
Gary and Dan, you get this?
There, we put in a tremendous amount of time and work, but in the information that was sent to you, in your packet, was the redo of the athletic budget with the capacity to accommodate water polo due to staff development reductions, some coaching staff reductions, reductions in supplies and equipment. Now, Mr. Ostro is here, and
Where's he at?
Art, well, he was
He's here.
been making worthy use of his time. Everybody have one
Yes.
of these?
Everybody has one of the, what Dave had?
Yes.
So Art, do you want to talk to us a little bit about what happened and what it was?
Well, after the committee of the whole meeting, I just, after the questions, just kind of went back and just continued to look at the budget and see if we can, where we can make cuts in order to try to keep everything that we currently have. So what I ended up doing and what you got in your packet on Friday was a new proposal where we would keep water polo. We would make cuts in staff development, basically get rid of staff development. So that was at 4,000, go down to 0. And then the major part of it was taking 30% cut in all supplies across the board. And that would get us down to the exact number that we had initially put out as the cuts. I think it's a great solution. I've already tried to come up with different ideas of not so much fundraising for the students, but fundraising for the athletic department in general. Bringing back the ad book, things like that, doing other bigger events where coaches would, kind of go out there and do different things to try to bring in some more revenue to help offset some of those costs for supplies. I think it's definitely a doable situation, and some supplies are 1,000 to go down to 700. We can certainly make that happen while keeping water polo. We would lose one stipend for water polo, so the boys team would just go down to one coach. But we would not have any other additional coaches reductions outside of that initial proposal. So basically one stipend per sport, 2 for football, and then the 1 for boys water polo. That sheet that I handed out today was what you requested of the entire athletic budget, repairs, paid services, supplies. I mean, when you look at the budget, there's not a whole lot you can change in regards to paid services or dues and fees. So supplies is kind of the only thing that you can really tackle as a whole. Transportation you don't really want to touch because, you never not want to have enough money for transportation. So we kind of kept that straight. Paid services for officials and tournaments that we enter, that's hard to do. So, we looked at a couple different scenarios with supplies from 10% to 20%, and then finally 30% got us to the number that we were looking for. So that's the new proposal, I guess.
Just a quick
So
question,
this-
Artie.
Yeah.
What are paid services? Because we're all over the map here. And
Paid services are your officials.
Yeah.
So obviously some sports like boys tennis don't have officials, so you
Yeah.
don't have any paid services for that. So football would be your officials on the crews. A few other things, basketball officials, baseball officials. So some are obviously a lot higher because you have more games.
Right.
Dues and fees are fees that we pay to get into tournaments, things like that.
Well, I noticed that there's a huge difference between paid services for girls water polo and boys water polo, $3,000 versus $700. And I have a boy and a girl in water polo, and they play just about the same. They
I
both
think-
have 2 referees.
I think originally when we came up with it, we lumped them all into one.
Oh,
Correct me if I'm wrong on that, Chris, like even transportation, we had lumped into just water polo.
Yeah.
So we're trying to pull apart what is what, in a sense of what fees. So I think if we went over in one, we just take it out of the other one. So it's kind of a work in progress of seeing where we go every year, and then as we build our schedule, because some of our schedules were not, like we could have 18 matches, we might only have 10 one year, so we're trying to get to that number.
yeah, I recollect they were just about even, but I could assume that the 700 and the 3,000 added together divided by 2 would probably be closer to what we experience here. Okay,
Right.
all right, fair enough.
Yeah, in prior budget documents, you would see that girls' water polo only had a stipend, and
Yeah.
boys' water polo had everything else.
That's dreaming.
And so they're trying to get back to making it more consistent.
Yeah.
I guess my question, Art, is that in our board packet, we received this document has 610 on the top. Is this now an outdated document?
That is, it's kind of ever-changing, I guess, as we continue to look up.
And is there something we got tonight that replaces this, or is this the summary of this?
That is the summary of everything.
Okay.
That'll be updated numbers. I have updated that previous document, and it will align with that, but some of them, some of the ones on there aren't up to date.
Okay.
So can you give us, by the end of this week, an updated one?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
An overall breakdown, but the numbers will definitely match up on both.
And then let me ask you another question too, and I'm just throwing this out because when I was coaching at Triton, we went in automatically and started to rebid the whole budget, but did it yearly, you know what I mean? So tape we did all year, here's the budget for that to get more money, you know what I mean, get the better price because we had a bigger quantity.
Right.
Are we doing that with our supplies then too?
Yeah. We have changed a lot of the vendors that we have used in the past of basically trying to find that best deal out there and local, trying to find local companies that we can get the product faster too. So that's definitely ever-changing.
All right, so your committee then to give us the final athletic cuts and everything, updating this 610
Yeah, this
worksheet.
document that you got today is the final updated budget, but I can break it down per, it's kind of hard with the stipends because the people that are listed might not be the ones that are on there, depending on if we go forward with those cuts. So we'd have to repost some of them. So that might, the number would go down, if anything, for the overall stipends because you might have, whoever, if we have to hire anybody in, they would be on the bottom of the scale. So the numbers might go down for stipends.
Okay, and then you have given Mary Ann your vacation schedule, right?
Yes, I have.
For the committee of holes?
Yep.
Okay.
The one other piece that was handed out,
Can
John
I ask-
Passarella.
Before,
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
were you gonna still
No.
on sports?
No,
Go
no,
ahead.
go.
Two things are,
Yes.
so you're gonna, did you say you're gonna revise this thing?
Yeah, I can revise that one so that it matches.
Which can make you match the coach, just again, the names, I understand they aren't important, they might change, but when you only have a column for coaches for the level for what's there now, and then you struck one, could you show what you're gonna have next year?
Well, that'll all depend on what you approve of
But I
how
mean,
many stipends.
I'll use the football as an example. The way you showed us on here, you're gonna have 6 varsity, 2 sophomore, and 1 freshman.
No, that's how it was structured.
Yeah, could you?
Without the, see, it's hard to determine because we don't know who we're gonna hire yet.
Oh.
Probably for football, if we went with the 9 coaches, it would be 4 on varsity, 2 or 3 on sophomore, and 2 on
Okay.
freshman. It all depends on who we'll hire. But
Okay.
I can try to tweak that of what we will do if we go with the proposal.
I was mostly concerned, there's a lot of freshman sports where it shows 1 coach and you got a bunch of.
No,
varsity.
those will definitely be
Okay.
shifted after.
The other thing is on, what are these 2 last set of numbers on the bottom of this new schedule? It just says athletics and then it says nothing and there's 2 numbers there.
One is mine and one is my administrative assistant.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
First time, yep.
I have questions. On the athletic, the last column on the blue sheet,
Yes,
is that student to coach ratio?
that is, yeah, athlete to coach ratio with the numbers from this year. So football, we did, with the proposed cuts. So if we went with the cuts of 9 coaches, it would be 15-1 if you took the numbers of what we had this year.
Okay, and so then picking up the conversation we had on the 7th and what Mr. Walsh brought up about combining those levels, what are the options? If we have a freshman, sophomore, is it possible to combine them, make a JV, so that we save a position, but yet we still keep the sport, but we don't have 2 JV levels?
A lot of that will determine, will have to be determined on what our conference does, because we would, if you're missing like we wouldn't want to have to forfeit all those at a certain level. If the conference does freshman, sophomore, varsity, you'd want to keep that consistent. So it varies.
Could we get a memo then on, I mean, it's a handful of sports, how would we know? So if we have the opportunity to combine a freshman, sophomore into a JV, and it's allowed by the conference, we might want to do that to save another position.
Mostly
Or
what they
sport.
do is do freshman JV and don't have a sophomore. So your JV consists of juniors that come and play down at the JV, not the freshmen up to the sophomores. It's normally the other way.
Could we get a chart on what
Yeah, I
that
could give you a
conference,
chart on,
what
like,
those
what we
conference
have.
rules are? So if we had to move something around, we'd know what we could move?
Yeah, I think with this current proposal, the budget-wise, we would not have to do that. I think we could run all of our programs as we have right now. You know, we'd just be limited. Really, most of the sports that take a hit are on the varsity level where you'd lose a coach, not the lower levels. So I really think we could run everything without having to do that, but I can certainly give you a breakdown of what sports our other conference schools have that they do JV as opposed to sophomores and things like that.
That would help.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, any other questions for Art?
Yeah, Art, if you could just expand a little bit on what really goes into supplies and what goes into dues and fees.
Dues and fees are all tournaments that we enter. So let's say volleyball tournament, you go away, it might be $250. Or, you know, like the golf fee is all the range fees, things like that. That's where that one is high.
That's why you see football at 0 because there is no tournament.
There is no there is no tournaments for dues and fees. So that's all the different tournaments or shootouts or things like that that you go to that have a fee, which, you know, if we do a tournament, and one of the questions that you guys were talking about earlier, if we do a tournament, we charge an amount to cover the costs of workers and or officials or things like that. So we never go in the hole when we host tournaments. So when schools do those type of tournaments, that's what they charge, an entry fee.
But on golf, the reason why the dues and fees are high because you have to pay for course rental, the course fees, right?
Right. Supplies will just be your basic supplies to get you through the year and or uniform replacement. So what we've tried to do is start this year of, you know, trying to get on a rotation that certain, you know, so we don't have half the sports trying to replace their uniforms at the same time. So sometimes that'll go up by $1,000 because we have to do a full replacement. But all your things, just wear and tear throughout the year that you need for just general supplies and or uniforms come out of that.
You know, I thank you for preparing this, and one of the reasons I asked for it was I wanted to give our community basically knowledge of how much we spend overall on our athletic budget. It looks like it's about $1 million if you count your salaries. So people have that in perspective. And we're going to be addressing this pay-to-play, obviously. But one way to look at this pay-to-play is, well, it's going to cover supplies, or it's going to cover dues and fees, or it's going to cover paid services. I think as a board we should have a rationale about what we're trying to cover with this pay-to-play, not just pick a number out of the air. So I just leave that for everyone's consideration. Thank you for providing this.
You're welcome.
Good idea.
So,
No,
Thanks, Art.
Anything else for Art? Dan?
just a real quickie on Title IX. If there's no explicit gender mentioned, are both males and females acceptable in it, like badminton?
No, that's an IHSA that you can only do females.
It can only be one gender.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's
Sorry.
only a couple
Sorry to
sports
ask an
where-
embarrassing question.
Yeah, no. Football, male and female. Wrestling, male and female. Pretty
no,
much
like
everything
Iowa.
else is.
There is some though. I remember
There's
a couple
an
of
Iowa
these.
female in wrestling. There's
Yeah.
a program.
Hey, Art,
Yeah,
we,
but badminton is a female
It's
sport.
female sport, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Cheerleading, though.
Cheerleading.
Campbell.
Cheerleading.
Cheerleading, you could
Yeah.
go co-ed, yeah,
That
so
can
you
be
can compete
co-ed.
on the co-ed level, or you can compete on, you know, just.
All right.
Art, in our previous
About
meeting, we
this.
talked about the fees you charge for the summer programs and what that recoups. And now that we have Chris here, could we discuss that? Do we get a reimbursement for facility costs at all in it?
That, I would, like like custodial charges and stuff?
Yeah.
Is it,
or-
yeah, I don't, that's not out of
Built
my
into the-
budget. I think that's a general school budget question on what we pay on a daily basis and what.
So who's
the-
responsible for the setting the fee for the summer camps, the athletic summer camps?
Oh, that is, yes, that is athletics, but
Right.
we do not pay out of that to custodial charges.
So Art, my question to build off what Gary's saying is, I'm going to do a basketball camp for boys, and I'm going to do it for high schoolers. And I figure right now that I'm gonna have 30 kids in this camp. I'm gonna have 2 coaches. How do you develop your budget for it to know what the kids are gonna charge? And is there a custodial fee, you know what I mean, when you're building up this budget, which I think is zero-based, that you know, how do you develop it?
Basically, we try to well, the summer programs have to run themselves. So if you travel, it has to pick up the transportation fee, things like that. Most of our summer budgets are cover the cost of a T-shirt or whatever you give to the athletes, and then the salary of the coaches.
What about use of the,
We do not have anything that will cover the cost. We've never gone that detailed of, do we pay an additional to cover of using the main gym or the field house? We don't have that.
Okay.
But would we have that custodial cost and
What about like fields or officials and that? Do they cover that? I mean, like don't you have a summer, some of the sports compete like baseball?
Baseball actually is the only one that is an IHSA summer thing. Yes, that's built into the fee for the summer baseball group.
So
to
because
pay
it's
for
summer,
officials.
so for the summer, in order for those athletes to do it, they're covering the complete cost of the summer program?
Yes,
Okay.
So for like the girls' basketball summer league,
yes.
they're covering the cost for athletics, I mean, for the officials wherever they go.
Yes.
And my question to you too is on the summer camps where you have summer leagues, do we have any league play here or is it always the way?
No, we have tournaments here, which basically we'll run a tournament here to cover the cost to get us into another tournament. So that's how we try to pick up, wherever we need the money, we pick up, we'll do a tournament here to bring in the income to pay for us to go somewhere else. So it basically is, whatever comes in goes out. There's not a whole lot of revenue for anybody.
what about the camps that are going on for the 6th graders, 7th graders, 8th graders? How do you determine that fee?
Once again, that is tied into covering the cost of things throughout the year and or coaches' stipends. So when we bring in that money, it allows us to pay the coaches for their summer, for the hours that they put in, provide that T-shirt or.
But there's no consideration for the facility at all?
That's never been
Okay.
asked. No, it's a great
That's one of the
question.
things we need to look at.
Yeah, secondly, when we talk about tournaments, you hosting a tournament here, what line item do I see that with the revenues generated coming through on the budget line?
You won't. It's an activity account. It's not a board account.
So I don't see the net revenue, so I don't see what kind of net bottom line we make on that at all.
No. I mean, we base it, whatever comes in, it pretty much goes out. Like, I could give you a printout of the activity, of my, like, athletic activity. So basically, let's say this year, it's probably somewhere around like $80,000 of what comes in, but it all goes right back out to cover those costs.
That'd be nice to see that come through and go out.
But to follow up, unless, did you want to go over?
No, I'll ask.
Follow up
Kathy.
to Gary's, and I asked this to Chris today. And again, no reflection on you or anybody,
Yeah.
Art, but how do we know that this is really happening? I mean, our problem, how do you, the way that the reports are provided, there's revenues in one set of reports that are 20 pages long, and there's expenses in the other, and they're not set up to say, all right, it's boys basketball, here's all the cost, here's the revenue, and we know that it was zero cost or revenue neutral. Do you have a way of doing that with your own
Well, for the
reports?
overall budget, anybody that buys anything that's on a line item goes through me and I check, do you have enough money? Yes, okay. As for tournaments and stuff, I mean, we watch what's in your activity count, what are you buying, I mean, we were under budget for everything this year. If you, let's say we had a cost that we didn't project that came in like supplies, well, we would just stop and make sure that you had it in another line item, so your overall budget for that sport was still okay.
Again, it goes to my mentality that we're using the facility and the fund is charged for custodial and whatever, and that tournament is not covering those costs. You got to come through the activity, and again, it's just past practice here, and something we'll have to address even on those tournaments. If there's 80,000 generated and it's costing us 2,000 in custodial costs, then we need to charge 82 in revenue.
Yeah,
Bring the 2,000 over to cover some of those costs.
We do that for out of school. Anybody that rents the facility, we have a custodial charge on that because it's in addition to our normal school hour. But I don't think we've ever looked at it of the normal school hour. Where does the custodial? What are we paying them for? Are we paying them to clean the athletic facilities or work an event, or we, you know, so we've never looked at it that way as far as I
We've
know.
covered that in our facilities report for from last year.
But I think the one key thing we need to look
I'll
at,
share that with you.
going into next year, as
So we get
Gary said,
reimbursed?
is we need to be able
Yeah,
to
by
base
outside organizations.
a facility
So
usage
this
charge,
tournament of
custodian-wise,
$8,000,
everything
we're
on a
getting
per hour
reimbursed then?
basis. What it's gonna cost, yeah.
That is.
Well, that's what we do for
No,
any
that
out
is
of
the-
school.
No, but I mean
You're
for
going outside service
internal,
to
when
one
we're
we're
doing
going to
tournaments or
tournament.
something like that.
Yeah.
So
Are we
we're
getting
covered. If
reimbursed
it's
from the
outside of the
revenues?
realm of a normal
No, because
school
it's
day,
going into the-
we need to look at that then.
Right.
So if you're gonna do an all-weekend
We're not
tournament,
seeing-
we need to be able to look at what extra costs, besides officials, you know,
Right.
to be able to put it
But
together.
typically, any of those run events are run by our coaches, and usually only, they'll do setup for it during the normal school day, or takedown, and usually there's typically only one custodian that will be assigned to that for the weekend, but it could, you know.
Let's look at it just to make
Yeah.
sure.
Yep, absolutely.
Anybody else?
I'll go last when everyone is done.
Laura?
So, I mean, this brings up an interesting conversation. I don't know where we put it. Maybe, Chris, we should have kind of like a cubic foot usage fee of the building. Right now, we're all in here, we've got air, we've got lights, we've got, you know, a mortgage on the building, whatever. You know, every minute, the meter is ticking for usage in this building, and that, so if we've got a camp, the meter's ticking for per cubic foot of that gym out there, and we should start to probably build them in. And I don't know, Chris, maybe when we have the budget meeting or something, we'll have to discuss that fee. I do have, on transportation, is this above and beyond the usage of our minibuses, our little Paul buses? Okay, so this is, and because, why
This is
can't,
purely buses,
Contracted.
yeah.
all buses, and there's, our little minibuses can't,
We use them for a lot of things right now.
Okay.
As long as the team isn't bigger than what we're allowed to do, we'll use it, like baseball used it for a lot of things, softball will use it for a lot of things,
Okay.
tennis will use it. We use it whenever we have the opportunity to use it,
And we do combine levels on the bus, right?
whenever we can, yeah.
Okay.
And we'll look more to do that this year than
And
we've done in the past.
if you combine Laura's and Carrie's thoughts, which is where it's headed, is we really don't still have all the costs of it. I mean, we certainly put we
Yeah.
lease the vehicles, and if nothing else, we put gas in them.
right.
So I don't know how much that is, but there's no internal cost that we allocate to any of our programs, is basically what we're saying, right, Chris?
Right.
Okay, so that would be a substantive change, Gary, as we think about it for the budget going forward.
Yeah.
Anybody, Mike, anybody else before Mike? Okay, Mike?
Well, Mike, after you're done, then I have to ask us to think about when we're gonna meet again to talk about this, because the committee of the whole meeting would be on the 28th, right?
Right now, I've asked for everybody's vacation time, so I can look who's available, so make sure we have a date that we have there. I'm only missing one more board member. Art's even have turned in, and all the administrators who are available have turned in their time.
No, on June 28th, if it was following the schedule we voted on, but on June 28th, it's the ISAB spring meeting, which I have to go to, and I would want to be part of the committee of the whole to discuss the finances.
And I will
so-
take a note of that, but that's why I asked for vacation time.
Okay.
And Mary Ann's been my central record keeper of it, so.
For June, July, and August, we have no scheduled committee of the whole meetings.
Oh, good, okay,
So,
sweet.
okay. And that was on the
And we'll take a
two-year,
note.
that was
Okay.
on
Send me
the
a note on
two-year
it.
schedule that you approved.
And send me a note on
No,
it.
I didn't prove that, they did.
Laura, send me a note on it.
You all approved it.
Okay, now Mike? Okay,
I have an email here I'm going to forward to Art, and it has a little spreadsheet that lists all our sports and activities that are IHSA affiliated, and our conference affiliation, if any. And I asked for this almost quite a while ago, and I finally got it, so that when we did have this discussion, we would know what sports are affiliated with this conference and what
Yeah.
sports aren't. And so I would like to forward it to Art and take a look at it, make sure it's accurate, tweak it, maybe say what's fall, what's spring.
No, I know that, yeah.
I think
sent
Art
it.
prepared that. didn't
Yeah,
he?
and then,
Did he
and
not?
then,
Yeah, I
and
did,
then
yeah, a long time
and
ago.
send it back through the superintendent back to the board, because I don't think everyone sitting here
Okay.
has it.
Yeah, that was a while ago.
okay.
And the levels.
Any other thing for Art?
So that'll be a reminder.
Yeah, from our conversation, what Mr. Gritchen's been asking, the money at the door, the money we collect for tickets, the money that, all these fees, somehow we have to build that into our reporting system so that we have evidence that we are paying our officials.
That's what you call, what you approved, it's
Approved
called
monthly bills.
the budget, the bills that you paid.
But we don't see revenue coming in from the take at the door.
We don't, where's the 80,000 from these tournaments?
And that's something that the finance council has to work out with the business manager to do that, but right now, officials are being paid, you have a copy of
Yeah.
the checks that
Yeah, I mean, we can,
Highly
it's
visible.
documented, it's there, it's just not in, some of it's not in the board account, it's in the activities account, and what, we can give you a detailed list, so you can see what comes in for each tournament, what goes out for each tournament, that's easy to get.
We need something systematic as a board to know that we are cost neutral,
Oh, well,
some
yeah.
kind of reporting mechanism.
Well, any of our activities account, we can't go in the negative, and we haven't, which we can show you, that's fine.
Okay. Anything else? Now I'm gonna ask Art, thank you very much for this.
Thanks,
We'll
Art.
keep you available, because I want you at the next committee of the whole meeting also. Now, John Passarella, did you develop this, the clubs?
I have to see the document here in front of you.
Oh, Pam did? Okay, here's what I'm saying right now is the stipend positions for the clubs were broken down. Pam did that. I'd like you to look at it. And prior to our committee of the whole meeting, if you are missing any information on that, let us know so that we can get that for you. Okay, don't look at it, you just got it tonight, so just don't, I want to have that all done and put together.
Furthermore, John's office, John did this activities data report as the date of June 9, 2011. You had requested information on how many kids were in 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 or more clubs. That's broken down by grade level, junior, senior, sophomore, freshman. And we have just under 50% of our kids in clubs. This does not include athletics.
Right.
So-
We had a stipend list in today's packet, for the clubs. Are you
Right.
saying that you gave us one today that's been updated?
No, I'm sorry, I was wrong.
I just handed this out
Oh,
with
okay.
that other material, so.
Now, John, what I want you to do on this one is to build up even more, look at the schools in our conference.
Yeah, it's not a problem. Realize that if it's not on there, they do not, are you looking for the data when you say schools for our conference regarding the number of students involved in their
No,
clubs?
but I'm looking at pay to participate data.
If it's not on there, that
Just
means they don't
non-sport.
charge it.
Okay, all right.
They do not charge it. I've contacted all of them. Now, keep in mind, obviously, that they're on summer break. So they may not, they're administrators, I don't know their.
With your connections, I guarantee you'll get it first. All right.
I'll get it.
Well,
So-
and then just maybe closing on this item C, we had 5 items. That I just want to indicate administratively, our plan is to proceed with the increase of $25 on the activity fee. And the pay to participate amount of $100 first sport, $50 second sport, $50 third sport, and with the limitation $150 per athlete, $200 for family. We had calculated that and revised it within the last month or so. Those numbers are in the budget. When we get to that, we can talk about it a little bit more. And we need to have the board act on that not later than the July 12 meeting. So I'm just saying that administratively, we're staying with that recommendation. You will need probably before July 12 to have another committee, the whole meeting, where you talk through all of this. But
No problem.
I just want to clarify administratively, that's still where we're coming from.
Okay, can we proceed, or is there any more questions?
Yeah,
but
could you
we
clar-
didn't, the board didn't agree on that pay to play
No. That's
fees and
totally-
numbers.
No, I'm telling you administratively.
Okay, all right.
That's
that
the
is
recommendation.
recommendation that we are sticking with.
Who is the "we"? I'm sorry.
The administration.
It would be myself it would be
Dr.
Pam
Walton?
Bilesma.
Okay.
It would be
Dr.
Mr. Welton.
Okay.
It would be Mr. Ostro, and Mr. Scanlon.
Okay.
So that group of 5.
Okay, anything else, or, oh, okay.
You said that about 50% of the students belong to a club, but the statistics that John just gave, it looks like somewhere between a quarter to a third belong to a
Well,
club.
here it is. I tallied it up. There are 175 seniors, 217 juniors, 149 sophomores, 131 freshmen, 672 totally, with the numbers 1417 on a total student population, came out to .474.
Yeah, but if you're a senior and you're in one club, if you're in 2, 3, or 4, you're one person. So it's only the one club that's a ratio of this population. For
There's
one class,
not
right?
duplicate counting here.
Oh,
Add these
okay,
numbers
that-
across.
All right, that
Okay.
makes sense.
All right.
Okay,
And
we're
the
gonna move on
second
now.
thing
Thank
is, the second thing that I wanted to ask is, are you making a recommendation for the pay-to-play level for clubs? And if it's here, I can just read it, but,
No, we're not, because when we considered that back in November and December, we felt that the administration of that would be quite arduous, and so we opted at that time to go with across-the-board $25 per student. And that would relate into activities to help fund that versus going out and trying to collect X number of dollars for every particular club. Does the teacher do that? Do they turn it into the office? How do you account for it? This way, when they come in and register late July, is a one-time payment,
okay, I
and
got
that's
you.
it.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we're done now. So we're moving ahead. I will let you know. I will give you at least I will try to give you a 5-day notice. Look, I'm waiting for one more board member, and that board member knows who he is. That once I get that, then I can start laying out my committee of the
I
whole.
guess you're off the hook, Laura.
No, Laura, did you turn yours in yet?
I was the first.
She was,
No,
you
first,
said
no.
he.
You
said
said
you
you know who he is.